My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat as I pulled up to Vivian's house. 3 months. 3 months of silence that felt like 3 years. 3 months of unanswered calls, ignored texts, declined invitations with increasingly transparent excuses. Too busy with work, Mom. Cameron and I have plans. Maybe next month. And then, out of nowhere, a text on Tuesday afternoon. Simple, brief, almost cold. Mom, dinner here Saturday at 7? No explanation. No apology for the radio silence. No acknowledgement that she'd basically disappeared from my life. Just that single question mark hanging there, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't broken my heart a little more with each day of silence. But I said yes. Of course I said yes. She's my daughter, my only child, the person I love most in this world. I would have driven through a blizzard at midnight if she'd asked. So Saturday evening at 6:45, I found myself parking my Mercedes in front of the renovated brownstone in Greenwich that she and Cameron had bought 3 years ago, right after their wedding. I sat in the car for a moment, checking my appearance in the rearview mirror. My silver blonde hair was perfectly styled, my makeup subtle but polished. I was wearing the navy blue cashmere sweater Vivian had given me for my birthday 2 years ago, paired with tailored gray slacks and my favorite pearl earrings. I wanted her to see that I was doing well, that the divorce from her father hadn't destroyed me, that I was still the strong, capable mother she'd always known. On the passenger seat sat a bouquet of white peonies, her favorite flowers since she was 6 years old, when we'd planted them together in the garden of our old house, before the divorce, before Richard's affair, before everything fell apart. I picked up the flowers and stepped out of the car. The November air was crisp, and the street was quiet except for the distant sound of someone's television. Their house looked beautiful in the early evening light. Cameron had insisted on installing those expensive exterior lights that made everything look like a magazine spread. I'd always thought they were too much, too showy. But I'd never said anything. I was trying so hard not to be the interfering mother-in-law. Maybe I should have interfered more. I walked up the brick pathway, my heels clicking softly. My hands were shaking slightly as I climbed the 3 steps to their front door. I was nervous, genuinely nervous to see my own daughter. When had that happened? When had we become strangers? I raised my hand to ring the doorbell, and before my finger even touched the button, the door flew open. Rosa stood there, their housekeeper, a woman I'd met maybe twice before in passing. Her face was completely drained of color, her dark eyes wide with something that looked like genuine terror. Before I could even say hello, she grabbed my arm with surprising strength. "Don't come in. Get out of here now." Her voice was urgent, barely above a whisper, but the panic in it was unmistakable. My stomach dropped. "What? Rosa, what's wrong? Is Vivian—" "Please, Mrs. Beaumont, please, just leave. Go back to your car, right now." Her grip on my arm tightened, her fingers digging into the cashmere. She glanced back over her shoulder into the house, then back at me. "He planned something. Something bad. This isn't a real dinner. You can't be here." My mind was racing. "He? Cameron? What do you mean he planned something? Where's Vivian?" "She's inside. She doesn't know. Please, Mrs. Beaumont. I could lose my job for this, but I can't let you walk in there. Not like this. He wants to humiliate you. To make you look crazy in front of her. To make sure you never see each other again." The words hit me like physical blows. Humiliate me. Make me look crazy. Make sure we never see each other again. "I don't understand. Why would he—" "There's no time. Please. I'm begging you. Just go. I'll explain everything. But not here. Not now. He could come to the door any second." Rosa's eyes were filling with tears. This woman, who I barely knew, was putting herself at risk to warn me. Something in her desperation convinced me. My maternal instinct, the same one that had been screaming at me for months that something was wrong, kicked into overdrive. I nodded slowly. Okay, okay, I'm going. I turned and walked back down the steps, forcing myself not to run. The peonies slipped from my hand and fell onto the brick pathway, white petals scattering. I didn't pick them up. I just kept walking, my heart hammering, my mind spinning. I got into my car and started the engine with shaking hands. Rosa had already closed the door. The house looked exactly as it had 5 minutes ago. Beautiful, perfect, completely normal. But something was very, very wrong inside those walls. I drove to the end of the block and pulled over, parking under a large oak tree where I could still see the house but wasn't directly in front of it. I turned off the engine and sat there in the dark, trying to process what had just happened. What did Rosa mean Cameron wanted to humiliate me? Why would he do that? And why tonight, when Vivian had finally reached out after 3 months of silence? Unless the invitation wasn't really from Vivian at all. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Had Cameron sent that text from Vivian's phone? Had my daughter even wanted to see me? Or was this all some sick game he was playing? I sat there for maybe 15 minutes, watching the house. The lights were on in what I knew was their dining room. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. Was Vivian in there right now, waiting for me? Checking her watch? Wondering why I hadn't shown up? Or did she know I wasn't coming? Was she part of this? No. No, I couldn't believe that. Vivian wouldn't do that to me. She wouldn't. But then again, I wouldn't have believed she'd cut me out of her life completely for 3 months either. A figure appeared in the dining room window. Tall, dark-haired, wearing what looked like a dress shirt. Cameron. He was pacing back and forth, talking on his phone, gesturing with his free hand. Even from this distance, even in the dim light, I could see the anger in his movements. Then another figure appeared. Smaller, slighter, long brown hair. Vivian. My breath caught in my throat. She was just standing there, her shoulders hunched, her head down. She looked small, defeated. Nothing like the confident, vibrant daughter I'd raised. Cameron turned to her and said something. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw my daughter flinch, actually flinch, like she was bracing for a blow. That's when I knew. That's when everything clicked into place. The sudden silence, the refused calls, the vague excuses. The way she'd looked tired and pale the last few times I'd seen her before the silence started. The way Cameron had always managed to cut our conversations short or change the subject when I asked about Vivian's work, her friends, her life. He'd been isolating her, systematically cutting her off from everyone who loved her. And I, in my desperate attempt not to be the controlling mother-in-law, had let it happen. I felt sick, physically sick. My hands were shaking so badly I had to press them against my lap to make them stop. A knock on my car window made me jump so hard I let out a small scream. I turned to see Rosa standing there, slightly out of breath, wearing a dark coat over her work uniform. She must have come out the back door. I rolled down the window. Rosa. I have 10 minutes before he notices I'm not in the kitchen. She was talking fast, her accent thicker with her urgency. I couldn't let you go without explaining. Mrs. Beaumont, your daughter is in trouble. Real trouble. I know. I just saw. You don't know everything. It's worse than you think. Rosa glanced back toward the house nervously. I've worked for them for 2 years. I've seen it get worse and worse. The way he talks to her. The way he controls everything. Who she sees, who she talks to, where she goes. He monitors her phone. He checks her emails. He made her quit the gym because he said men there were looking at her. He made her stop having lunch with her friends because he said they were bad influences. Each word was like a knife to my heart. Why didn't she tell me? Why didn't she ask for help? Because he convinced her you wouldn't understand, that you would judge her, that you never approved of their marriage anyway, so you'd just say, I told you so. He twisted everything, Mrs. Beaumont. Every conversation you had, every question you asked, he made it sound like you were trying to control her life. He's been working on this for at least a year. maybe longer. The invitation tonight was his idea. He sent it from her phone. I heard him planning it on the phone with a friend of his yesterday. He was going to use dinner to start a fight, to make you say something that he could twist and use against you, to make Vivian think you were attacking her, attacking their marriage, to destroy whatever connection you two still have. Rosa's eyes were fierce now, determined. I couldn't let that happen. I've kept quiet for too long, but I couldn't let him do that to you. To her. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. Tears were burning behind my eyes. Rosa reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Take this. I wrote down some numbers. A lawyer who specializes in these cases, a friend of mine who works at a women's shelter, and some other information, things I've noticed, dates, times, photos I took of bruises on her arms. Bruises? The word came out as barely a whisper. Small ones, on her upper arms mostly, where long sleeves would cover them. I don't know if he hits her or just grabs her too hard. She never talks about it, but I've seen them. I took the envelope with numb fingers. There's something else, Rosa continued, speaking even faster now. She's been seeing a divorce attorney. On Tuesdays. She tells him she has a client meeting, but I overheard her on the phone last week making an appointment. The card is in the envelope. Olivia Chen. She's on the 5th floor of that building downtown, the glass one near the train station. A tiny spark of hope flared in my chest. She's planning to leave him? I think she wants to, but she's scared. So scared, Mrs. Beaumont. He's made her believe she can't survive without him, that she's weak, that she's nothing. She needs you. She needs someone to remind her who she really is, who she was before him. Rosa glanced back at the house again. I have to go. He'll notice I'm gone. Don't try to contact her directly. He monitors everything, but maybe reach out to that lawyer. See if she can help you figure out how to get through to Vivian safely. Rosa, wait. Thank you. Thank you for this. For risking your job. It's not just a job I'm risking, she said quietly. But some things are more important. That girl in there, she reminds me of my daughter. I couldn't help my daughter in time. Maybe I can help yours. Before I could ask what she meant, she turned and hurried back toward the house, disappearing into the shadows between properties. I sat there in my car, holding that envelope like it was made of glass. My mind was reeling. My daughter was trapped in an abusive marriage. My beautiful, smart, talented daughter had been systematically broken down by a man I'd welcomed into our family. A man I'd smiled at in photographs. A man I'd made polite conversation with at holiday dinners. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a folded piece of notebook paper covered in Rosa's careful handwriting. Lists of dates and incidents, photos printed on regular paper, small and grainy, but clear enough to see the finger-shaped bruises on Vivian's arms. Contact information for the lawyer and the shelter worker. And at the bottom, one more line. She wore long sleeves to her father's funeral last year, even though it was July, even though it was 90 degrees. I should have said something then. Please don't make my mistake. My father, my ex-husband Richard, he died of a heart attack last summer, and Vivian had shown up to the funeral in a long-sleeved black dress despite the heat. I'd thought it was odd, but hadn't questioned it. I'd been too wrapped up in my own complicated feelings about Richard's death to pay attention. How long had this been going on? How many signs had I missed? I looked up at the house one more time. Cameron was still visible in the window, but Vivian was gone. I wanted to march up there right now, to bang on the door, to demand to see my daughter, to drag her out of that house and away from that monster. But I couldn't. Rosa was right. If I went in there guns blazing, Cameron would spin it. He'd make me look like the crazy, controlling mother. He'd use it to isolate Vivian even further. I had to be smart about this. Strategic. I had to plan. I started the car and drove away slowly, my mind already working through possibilities. First thing Monday morning, I would call Olivia Chen. I would find out what Vivian had told her, what her plans were if she had any. Then I would figure out how to reach my daughter, how to let her know I was here, that I loved her, that she wasn't alone. As I drove through the quiet streets of Greenwich, heading back to my own house 10 minutes away, I made myself a promise. Cameron Clark had spent months building walls between me and my daughter. Now I was going to tear every single one of them down. He wanted a war? He had no idea who he was dealing with. I'd survived a devastating divorce. I'd built a multi-million-dollar business from the ground up. I'd faced down boardrooms full of men who underestimated me and came out on top every single time. Cameron Clark was about to learn that the biggest mistake he ever made was messing with a mother's love for her child. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my home office until 3 a.m, staring at Rosa's notes, looking at those grainy photos of bruises on my daughter's arms, replaying every conversation, every interaction, every warning sign I'd ignored over the past few years. When had it started? When had my vibrant, confident daughter become someone who flinched at her husband's voice? I met Cameron Clark 5 years ago at a charity gala for the Greenwich Arts Foundation. I'd gone alone, as usual. Richard and I had been divorced for about 6 months by then, and I was still learning how to navigate social events as a single woman. Vivian had convinced me to go. "Mom, you can't hide in your house forever," she'd said over lunch that week. "Dad moved on. You need to move on too. Come to the gala with me. It'll be fun." So I'd gone, wearing a black evening gown and the diamond earrings Richard had given me for our 20th anniversary. Jewelry I probably should have sold, but couldn't quite bring myself to part with. Vivian looked beautiful that night, in a deep green dress that brought out the color of her eyes. She was 27, working at a boutique architecture firm in Manhattan, living in a small apartment in Brooklyn that she was so proud of. She'd introduced me to Cameron during cocktail hour. He was tall, handsome in that generic corporate way, wearing an expensive suit that fit him perfectly. He had a firm handshake and an easy smile. "Mrs. Beaumont, it's wonderful to finally meet you," he'd said. "Vivienne talks about you constantly. She says you're her hero." I'd liked that. What mother wouldn't? He was charming, attentive. He made Vivienne laugh. When he put his hand on the small of her back, she leaned into him with such comfort, such trust. They'd been dating for 3 months, she told me. They'd met at a wine tasting event that one of his law firm colleagues had hosted. "He's amazing, Mom," she'd whispered to me when Cameron stepped away to get us drinks. "He's so supportive of my career. He actually listens when I talk about my projects. He's not like those other guys I dated who just wanted arm candy." But even that first night, there was something I couldn't quite put my finger on. The way he'd interrupted her twice when she was telling a story. The way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes when she mentioned having lunch with her college roommate the following week. The way his hand had tightened on her waist when a colleague of hers, a young male architect, had come over to say hello. Small things. Tiny things. Things I told myself I was imagining because I was still raw from my own divorce, still seeing betrayal and manipulation everywhere because of what Richard had put me through. I should have trusted my instincts. Their relationship moved fast. By 6 months, they were living together in his apartment in Greenwich. By a year, they were engaged. Vivian had shown me the ring with such joy, such excitement. It was a large diamond solitaire, platinum setting, probably cost more than my first car. "Say yes," she'd said, tears in her eyes. "Tell me you're happy for me, Mom." What was I supposed to say? That I had reservations about a man I barely knew? That something about him made my skin crawl in a way I couldn't explain? That I'd noticed how she'd started dressing differently, more conservatively, since moving in with him? That she'd mentioned canceling plans with friends 3 times in the past month because Cameron had surprised her with other plans? "Of course I'm happy for you, sweetheart," I'd said, hugging her. "If he makes you happy, that's all that matters." The wedding was beautiful, small, elegant, exactly what Vivian had always said she wanted. Cameron's parents had flown in from Boston. His mother was a cold woman with a thin smile who'd looked at me like I was something she'd found on the bottom of her shoe. His father was loud, boisterous, the kind of man who told inappropriate jokes and slapped people on the back too hard. Richard had been there too, with his new wife. The woman he'd left me for. Seeing them together had been like swallowing broken glass, but I'd smiled through it. For Vivian. Always for Vivian. During the reception, I danced with my daughter. One last dance before she became someone's wife. She'd rested her head on my shoulder like she used to do when she was little. "I love you, Mom," she'd whispered. "Thank you for being so strong through everything with Dad. You showed me what it means to survive, to rebuild." I'd held her tighter, fighting back tears. "I love you too, baby, so much. And I'm always here, no matter what. Remember that. Always." Why did I say that? Did some part of me already know? Already sense what was coming? The first year of their marriage seemed fine, at least from the outside. Vivian would call me once or twice a week. We'd have lunch every couple of weeks. She'd tell me about her projects at work, about the house they were renovating, about their plans to travel to Italy that summer. But there were small changes. She stopped talking about her friends as much. When I'd ask about Maria, her college roommate, or Beth, her work friend, she'd get vague. "Oh, everyone's so busy, it's hard to coordinate schedules." When I'd suggest we take a mother-daughter trip to the spa like we used to, she'd say Cameron preferred they spend their vacation time together. When I'd call on weekend evenings, she'd talk in a hushed voice and end the conversation quickly, saying Cameron was trying to watch a movie or they were about to head out to dinner. Red flags, giant, waving red flags, and I'd ignored every single one. The second year was worse. Calls became less frequent. Lunch plans were canceled more often. "Cameron's boss is having a dinner party," or "Cameron wants to visit his parents," or "Cameron isn't feeling well and I should probably stay home with him." Always Cameron. Always his needs, his plans, his preferences. I tried to talk to her about it once, carefully, gently. We'd been having coffee at a little cafe in downtown Greenwich, about 18 months into her marriage. "Sweetheart, I feel like I barely see you anymore. Is everything okay?" She'd stirred her latte, not meeting my eyes. "Everything's fine, Mom. I'm just busy. We're both busy. Marriage takes work, you know?" "I do know. But marriage shouldn't mean losing yourself, losing your other relationships." She'd looked up then, and there was something defensive in her eyes, something I'd never seen directed at me before. "I'm not losing myself. I'm building a life with my husband. That's what you're supposed to do. Maybe if you and Dad had spent more time focused on each other instead of your separate interests, your marriage wouldn't have failed." The words had cut deep. My marriage hadn't failed because I'd had separate interests. It had failed because Richard had cheated on me with a woman 15 years younger. But I hadn't said that. I'd just sat there, stunned into silence. "I'm sorry," she'd said quickly, reaching for my hand. "I didn't mean that. I'm just stressed. Work's been intense and Cameron's been working such long hours. I'm sorry, Mom." But the damage was done. I'd started pulling back after that, scared of saying the wrong thing, scared of pushing her away completely. That was exactly what Cameron had wanted, I realize now. To make me the enemy, to turn my concern into interference, to twist my love into control. By the third year, contact had dwindled to brief text messages and the occasional phone call. She'd stopped meeting me for lunch altogether. When I'd managed to see her, usually at some family obligation, she'd looked tired, thinner. Her laugh didn't sound genuine anymore. She wore high-necked blouses and long sleeves, even in summer. Richard's funeral last July had been the last time I'd really spent any time with her. He'd died suddenly of a heart attack at 59, leaving behind his young wife and a mountain of debt I'd known nothing about. Vivian had been devastated. Whatever issues she'd had with her father, she'd loved him. We'd sat together at the funeral, holding hands, not speaking. Cameron had stood slightly apart, on his phone half the time, looking annoyed when the service ran long after the burial. I'd hugged Vivian in the parking lot. "Come stay with me tonight," I'd said. "We can order takeout and watch old movies like we used to. You shouldn't be alone." "I'm not alone. I have Cameron." "I know what you meant, Mom. But I need to be with my husband right now. He understands what I'm going through." She'd pulled away, climbed into Cameron's BMW, and driven off. I'd stood there in that cemetery parking lot, watching her leave, feeling like I was losing her just as surely as I'd lost Richard. Just in a different way. 3 months ago, the silence had become complete. No returned calls, no answered texts, nothing. I'd driven by their house twice, but never had the courage to knock on the door. What would I say? What would Cameron tell her after I left? I'd been dying slowly, a little bit every day, wondering what I'd done wrong, replaying every conversation, every interaction, trying to figure out where I'd failed as a mother, lying awake at night, imagining worst-case scenarios and telling myself I was overreacting, that adult children sometimes needed space from their parents, that this was normal. But it wasn't normal, and I'd known it wasn't normal. I'd just been too scared to face the truth. Now, sitting in my office at 3 a.m, looking at photographic evidence of my daughter's abuse, I couldn't believe my own cowardice, my own willful blindness. I'd survived a devastating divorce. I'd built a successful business. I'd always prided myself on being strong, on being smart, on being observant. But when it came to my own daughter, I'd failed. I'd let politeness and fear of being that mother-in-law override every maternal instinct screaming at me that something was wrong, never again. Starting Monday morning, everything was going to change. Monday morning, I was on the phone with Olivia Chen's office the moment they opened at 9. The receptionist tried to put me off with the standard "Attorney Chen is with a client" routine, but I wasn't having it. "Tell her it's about Vivian Clark. Tell her Vivian's mother is calling. Tell her it's urgent." My voice was firm, the same voice I'd used in boardrooms when I needed people to take me seriously. 5 minutes later, Olivia Chen was on the line. "Mrs. Beaumont, I was wondering if I'd hear from you." Her voice was professional but warm, with just a hint of concern underneath. "How did you get my information?" "Rosa Martinez, their housekeeper. She gave me your card Saturday night, along with some other information that made me physically sick to look at." There was a pause. "I see. Mrs. Beaumont, I need to be upfront with you. Vivian is my client, and there are certain things I can't discuss without her permission. Attorney-client privilege. I understand that. But I need to know if my daughter is planning to leave that man, and I need to know how I can help." Another pause, longer this time. I could hear papers shuffling in the background. "Can you come to my office this afternoon? 2 o'clock? "I'll be there." I spent the hours before the meeting going through Rosa's notes again, organizing everything into a timeline. The gradual isolation, the increasing control, the canceled plans and abandoned friendships, the change in Vivian's appearance and demeanor, the bruises. I printed everything out, put it in a folder, along with my own observations from the past few years. Olivia Chen's office was on the 5th floor of a modern glass building downtown, exactly where Rosa had said it would be. The waiting room was tastefully decorated in calming blues and grays. There was a box of tissues on every surface. That told me everything I needed to know about the kind of cases she handled. She came out to greet me herself. Mid-40s, petite, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a firm handshake. "Mrs. Beaumont, come on back." Her office was filled with books and family photos, pictures of 2 teenage boys in soccer uniforms, a golden retriever, a life that looked normal and happy and safe. Everything I wanted for Vivian. "Before we start," Olivia said, sitting across from me, "I want you to understand something. Vivian has been seeing me for about 6 weeks. She's consulted with me 3 times. She's gathering information, trying to understand her options. But she hasn't committed to filing for divorce yet. She's scared, which is completely understandable in situations like this. Situations like what? Say it. Say what he's doing to her. Olivia's expression was compassionate but direct. Cameron Clark is an abuser. He's been systematically isolating your daughter, controlling her finances, monitoring her communications, and engaging in coercive psychological manipulation for at least the past 2 years, probably longer. What Rosa documented with those bruises suggests physical abuse as well, though Vivian has been reluctant to discuss that aspect with me. Hearing it said out loud, in clinical terms, by a professional who'd seen this pattern before, made it real in a way it hadn't been even after seeing those photos. My hands started shaking. What can I do? How do I get her out of there? That's complicated. The most dangerous time for someone in an abusive relationship is when they try to leave. Statistics show that's when violence often escalates. We need to be strategic. We need to make sure Vivian has a safe exit plan before she makes any moves. He goes on business trips. Rosa mentioned that. I know. Vivian told me about his travel schedule. He's going to Boston next Monday for 3 days. That's our window if she's ready. But Mrs. Beaumont, she has to be ready. I can't force her. You can't force her. She has to make this choice herself, or she'll go back to him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march over to that house right now and drag my daughter out. But I knew Olivia was right. I'd read enough, seen enough over the years to know that victims of abuse often return to their abusers multiple times before leaving for good. That being pushed into leaving before they were ready often backfired. So what do I do? You be available. You be supportive. And you don't judge. When she's ready to reach out, you need to be there with open arms and know I told you so. Can you do that? Of course I can do that. She's my daughter. I love her unconditionally. Olivia smiled slightly. Good, because I'm going to need your help. If Vivian agrees to leave next Monday, she'll need a place to go. Somewhere Cameron doesn't have easy access to. Your house would be ideal if you're willing. More than willing. I have a guest room that's always ready for her. It was her room growing up. I never changed it. Perfect. She'll also need emotional support during what's going to be an incredibly difficult transition. Leaving an abuser isn't just physically dangerous. It's psychologically devastating. He spent years convincing her she's worthless without him, that no one else would want her, that you don't really love her, that she's weak and incompetent and broken. Undoing that damage takes time. Every word was another knife to my heart. How could I not have seen this? How could I let this happen? Because he's good at what he does. Men like Cameron Clark are master manipulators. They isolate their victims so slowly, so gradually that by the time the victim realizes what's happened, they're completely trapped. And they make people like you feel guilty for having concerns, for asking questions. They weaponize social norms about not interfering in marriages. They use your love for your daughter against you. Olivia leaned forward. This is not your fault, and it's not Vivian's fault. The only person responsible for abuse is the abuser. I nodded, not trusting my voice. After a moment, I opened the folder I'd brought. Rosa gave me this: documentation, photos, dates. I added my own observations. I don't know if it's useful, but Olivia took the folder, flipping through it carefully. Her expression grew more serious with each page. This is very useful. Rosa did good work. And your timeline corroborates what Vivian has told me. This will be helpful for the restraining order and the divorce proceedings. Restraining order? Absolutely. Given the documented pattern of abuse, we'll file for a temporary restraining order as soon as Vivian leaves. It'll require Cameron to stay at least 100 yards away from her, from your house, from her workplace. Violating it would be a criminal offense. Good, that's good. There's something else you should know. Olivia closed the folder, meeting my eyes. Cameron has a history. His first marriage ended with his ex-wife filing for a restraining order. It was sealed as part of their divorce settlement, but I was able to obtain some information through a colleague. He was never charged with anything, but the pattern of behavior was similar to what Vivian is experiencing: isolation, control, psychological abuse. Rage burned through me. He did this before? And no one warned us? No one thought to mention that the man marrying my daughter was an abusive piece of... The records were sealed. Legally, no one could tell you. That's the problem with these cases. Abusers move from one victim to the next, and each new victim has no way of knowing what they're walking into. I closed my eyes, taking deep breaths, trying to control the fury and helplessness churning in my chest. When I opened them, Olivia was watching me with understanding. "Channel that anger into something productive, Mrs. Beaumont. Help me get your daughter out safely. Help me make sure Cameron Clark never does this to anyone else. What do you need from me?" "Right now? Go home. Wait. I'm seeing Vivian tomorrow afternoon. She thinks it's just another consultation, but I'm going to push her a little harder this time. I'm going to tell her that her mother came to see me, that you're not judging her, that you just want to help. Sometimes knowing their support system is intact is what gives victims the courage to leave." "What if she's not ready? What if she decides to stay with him?" Olivia's expression was gentle but honest. "Then we wait, and we hope she changes her mind before it's too late." The next 3 days were torture. I jumped every time my phone rang, hoping it was Vivian. I barely slept. I kept checking my messages, my email, even my doorbell camera, thinking maybe she'd just show up. Nothing. On Thursday afternoon, Olivia called. "She knows you came to see me. She cried for about 20 minutes when I told her. But Mrs. Beaumont, those weren't tears of anger. They were tears of relief." My own eyes filled. She's going to leave him? She's thinking about it. She's scared. She's worried about what Cameron will do when he finds out. She's worried about her career, her finances, what people will think. All normal concerns. But she's also exhausted. She's been living in a constant state of fear and anxiety for so long that she's reaching her breaking point. Did she ask about me? Did she want to talk to me? Not yet, but I think she will, soon. I gave her your message, that you love her unconditionally, that you're not going to judge her, that you just want her safe. Keep your phone on, keep yourself available. And Mrs. Beaumont? Be patient. This is hard for her. I know, I will. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you for everything. Friday evening, my phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. My heart started pounding before I even opened it. "Mom, it's me, using Rose's phone. Can I call you tomorrow when he's at the gym? Around 10 a.m.? I typed back with shaking hands. "Yes, anytime. I love you." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "I love you too. I'm sorry for everything." Saturday morning, I was up at 6, showered and dressed, phone in hand by 9. At 10:03, it rang. Unknown number again. "Vivian?" "Mom." Her voice broke on that single word, and then she was crying. Deep, wrenching sobs that tore my heart into pieces. "Oh, sweetheart. Oh, baby, it's okay. I'm here. I'm right here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. For pushing you away. For the things I said. For making you think I didn't love you. I do love you, Mom. So much. I never stopped. He just made me think. He convinced me that..." "I know," Olivia explained. "Vivian, you have nothing to apologize for. Nothing. Do you hear me? This isn't your fault. I feel so stupid. I'm a smart woman. I have a successful career. How did I let this happen? How did I not see what he was doing? Because he's a professional liar, and you're a trusting person. Those aren't weaknesses, sweetheart. They're good qualities that he exploited. The only person at fault here is him." We talked for 45 minutes. She told me things that made me want to drive to that house and murder Cameron Clark with my bare hands. How he'd gradually taken control of their joint bank account, giving her an allowance like she was a child. How he'd installed tracking software on her phone without her knowledge. How he'd made her block her college friends on social media because he said they were toxic influences. How he'd started grabbing her arms hard enough to leave bruises when she talked back to him. "He's going to Boston on Monday," she said finally, her voice steadier now. "For 3 days. Olivia says that's when I should do it. When I should leave. Do you want to? Are you ready?" Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, "I'm terrified. But I can't keep living like this. I can't keep being this person he's turned me into. I want to be myself again, Mom. I want to be the daughter you raised." "You are that daughter. You always have been. He buried her, but she's still there, and we're going to help her climb back out." "Can I really come stay with you? I know it's a lot to ask." "Vivian Clark, you listen to me. You are my daughter. This is your home. It will always be your home. You can stay here as long as you need to, forever, if that's what it takes. I don't care." She started crying again, but these tears sounded different, lighter somehow, like relief. "I have to go. He'll be back soon. Olivia said she'll coordinate everything for Monday. She said you'd help? I'll do whatever you need, whatever it takes to get you out of there safely." Okay. I love you, Mom." "I love you too, baby, so much. Just a few more days. You can do this. You're stronger than you know." After we hung up, I sat on my couch and cried. For my daughter. For the years she'd lost. For the woman she'd been forced to become. For all the warning signs I'd seen but hadn't acted on fast enough. But underneath the tears was something else. Something fierce and protective and powerful. Cameron Clark had taken 3 years of my daughter's life. He wasn't getting one more day. Sunday afternoon, Olivia called with the plan. "Cameron's flight leaves at 6 a.m. Monday. As soon as Vivian confirms he's at the airport, you'll come over with a moving truck. I've arranged for professional movers who specialize in domestic violence situations. They're fast and discreet. We'll get her essentials, her documents, anything she can't live without. Should take about 4 hours. Then we'll file for the restraining order and serve him with divorce papers." "What about Rosa?" "Vivian is going to give her a severance package and a glowing reference. Rosa can't stay in that house once Cameron finds out what happened. He'll blame her, and it won't be safe. Tell Rosa I'll hire her, if she wants. I could use help around the house, and I know Vivian trusts her. I'll let her know. That's very generous of you." Monday morning, I was dressed and ready by 5:30. The moving truck arrived at my house at 7. At 7:23, my phone buzzed. Vivian. "He's through security. It's time." We drove in a convoy, my Mercedes, the moving truck, and Olivia's Prius. Rosa met us at the door, her face pale but determined. Vivian was standing in the foyer, a small suitcase at her feet, looking absolutely terrified. I didn't say anything. I just opened my arms. She ran into them like she was 6 years old again, and I held her while she shook. "You're safe now," I whispered into her hair. "I've got you. You're safe." The movers worked with incredible efficiency. They'd done this before, clearly. They knew exactly what to prioritize. Important documents first, then clothing, then sentimental items, then everything else. No wasted movements, no unnecessary questions. Just quiet, professional competence. Vivian moved through the house like a ghost, pointing to things with shaking hands. That painting. My grandmother's jewelry box, the photo albums in the closet. Her voice was mechanical, detached. Shock, I realized. She was in shock. Rosa worked alongside the movers, her face set in determined lines. She'd packed Vivian's important papers the night before: birth certificate, passport, social security card, bank statements, medical records. Everything Cameron might use to control her if he could get his hands on it. I stayed close to Vivian, one hand on her back, grounding her. Olivia was on her phone, coordinating with the courthouse, making sure the restraining order would be filed the moment we had Vivian safely at my house. We were in Vivian's closet, the movers boxing up her clothes, when her phone rang. The sound cut through the organized chaos like a gunshot. We all froze. Vivian pulled the phone from her pocket with trembling hands. Her face went white. "It's him." "Don't answer it," Olivia said immediately. "Let it go to voicemail." "He's supposed to be in Boston. His meeting doesn't start until 11. Why is he—" The phone stopped ringing. 5 seconds later, it started again. "He knows," Vivian whispered. "He knows something's wrong. He can always tell when I'm— Oh my God, the tracking app. He tracks my phone. He can see I'm at the house. He can see I'm not alone." Her breathing was getting faster, more shallow. Panic attack. I recognized it immediately. Olivia moved quickly, taking the phone from Vivian's hand. "How long until he could get back here from the airport?" 45 minutes. Maybe less if he speeds. Vivian was hyperventilating now. "He's going to come back. He's going to stop me. I can't do this. I can't." I grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at me. "Vivian, listen to me. You can do this. We are getting you out of this house right now. He doesn't get to control you anymore. Do you understand me?" Her eyes were wild, terrified. "You don't know what he's like when he's angry. You don't know what he'll do." "I don't care what he'll do. He's not going to touch you. I won't let him." Olivia was already talking to the movers. "We need to go, now. Leave anything that's not essential. We can send someone back for it later, with a police escort if necessary." The next 20 minutes were a blur. Boxes thrown into the truck, suitcases shoved into car trunks, Rosa grabbing the last of the important documents. Me, holding Vivian's hand, practically dragging her out the front door because her legs didn't seem to want to work properly. We were loading the last box when Vivian's phone rang again. Then mine rang. Unknown number. We looked at each other. "It's Cameron," she said. "He's calling you from someone else's phone." I answered, putting it on speaker so Olivia could hear. "Hello? Margot?" Cameron's voice was smooth, controlled, but I could hear the anger underneath, like acid beneath silk. "Is my wife with you?" "That's between me and Vivian. Put her on the phone, now." The veneer cracked slightly. Good. Let him lose control. "No." Silence. Then, "I don't know what lies Vivian has been telling you, but you're making a mistake. A big mistake. She's emotionally unstable. She's been seeing a therapist for depression. She's not thinking clearly. Whatever she's told you, it's not true." Classic abuser tactic. Gaslighting. Making the victim seem crazy. Olivia had warned me about this. "She hasn't told me anything that concerns you, Cameron, but she's safe. That's all you need to know." Safe? Safe from what? From her husband who loves her? Who's given her everything? That house she's living in? I paid for it. The car she drives? I bought it. The clothes on her back? Everything she has is because of me. His voice was rising now, control slipping. "And you're going to help her destroy our marriage based on what? Some paranoid delusion? Some mother-daughter drama?" Vivian flinched at every word. Years of this. Years of being told she was nothing without him, that she owed him everything, that she was crazy for questioning him. "I'm hanging up now, Cameron. Don't call me again. And don't try to contact Vivian. Her lawyer will be in touch." "Her lawyer? Are you serious? Over what? Over nothing? I've never touched her." "Never hurt her. If she's claiming I have, she's lying. We have evidence that says otherwise." Another silence. Longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was cold, dead, dangerous. "You're going to regret this, Margot. You're going to regret turning my wife against me. You're going to regret interfering in my marriage. I promise you that." Is that a threat? It's a fact. No one takes what's mine. No one. He hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, shaking slightly. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, white-hot rage. "We need to go," Olivia said quietly. "Right now. He'll be back here in less than 30 minutes. The convoy pulled away from that house at 11:47 a.m. I watched it disappear in my rearview mirror. Vivian was in the passenger seat beside me, silent, staring straight ahead. Rosa was in the back with a suitcase full of documents and photo evidence. "What if he follows us?" Vivian whispered. "What if he finds out where you live?" "He already knows where I live, sweetheart. But by the time he gets there, we'll have a restraining order in place. If he comes within 100 yards of my property, he goes to jail." "You don't understand. He has friends, powerful friends, lawyers, judges. He's always said if I ever tried to leave, he'd make sure I lost everything. My job, my reputation, everything." "He doesn't have that kind of power. He just wants you to think he does. It's all about control, Vivian. About making you believe you can't survive without him. But you can. You will." We pulled up to my house, her house now too, at 12:15. The movers started unloading. Olivia disappeared into my home office to file the restraining order electronically. Rosa started making coffee, because that's what you do in a crisis. You make coffee. And Vivian collapsed on my living room couch and cried. Not the quiet, controlled tears she'd shed in the car. Real, gut-wrenching sobs that sounded like they were being torn from somewhere deep inside her. 3 years of pain and fear and suppressed emotion pouring out all at once. I sat next to her and held her while she broke apart. This was the turning point. The moment when everything changed. When my daughter stopped being Cameron Clark's victim and started being a survivor. The restraining order was approved by 2:30 that afternoon. Temporary protection, good for 10 days until the full hearing, but enforceable immediately. Cameron Clark was now legally required to stay at least 100 yards away from Vivian, from me, from my property. Violating it meant arrest. Olivia came out of my office holding the printed order with something close to satisfaction on her face. "It's done. He's been served electronically. The divorce papers, too. He knows." Vivian was lying on the couch, exhausted from crying, a blanket pulled up to her chin like armor. "What happens now?" "Now we wait. He has 10 days to respond to the divorce petition. In the meantime, you're safe here. He can't come near you without facing criminal charges. You don't know him. He doesn't care about court orders or charges. He'll find a way." My doorbell rang. We all froze. "It's 3:00, Rosa said quietly. "He could be back from the airport by now." Olivia moved to the window, looking out carefully. "It's a police car, 2 officers." My heart was pounding as I opened the door. 2 Greenwich police officers stood on my porch, a man and a woman, both young, both looking serious. "Mrs. Margot Beaumont?" the female officer asked. "Yes." "I'm Officer Martinez. This is Officer Chen. We're here as a courtesy check. We understand you're housing someone who just filed a restraining order against Cameron Clark?" "My daughter, yes. She's inside." Mr. Clark called the station about an hour ago, said his wife had been kidnapped, that her mother and some unknown accomplices had broken into his home and taken her against her will. He was quite insistent that we file a missing persons report and investigate. Of course he did. Of course he'd try to flip the narrative, make himself the victim. My daughter left voluntarily. She's 32 years old. She can go wherever she wants. And she has a restraining order against him that was just approved by a judge. We're aware. That's why we're here. To make sure everyone is safe and to let you know that Mr. Clark has been warned about the order. He's been told explicitly that any attempt to contact Ms. Clark or come to this address will result in immediate arrest. Officer Martinez glanced past me into the house. Would it be possible to speak with Ms. Clark briefly, just to confirm she's here voluntarily? I stepped back, letting them in. Vivian sat up on the couch, wiping her eyes. She looked so young suddenly, so vulnerable. "Ms. Clark, I'm Officer Martinez. Are you here of your own free will?" "Yes." Her voice was hoarse from crying. "Yes, I left my husband. I chose to come here, to my mother's house." "And the restraining order? You filed that?" "My lawyer filed it. But yes, it's what I want." Officer Chen was making notes. Your husband claims you're mentally unstable, that you're having some kind of breakdown, that you need psychiatric help. Vivian's face crumpled. He always says that, whenever I disagree with him or question him. He says I'm crazy, that I'm imagining things, that I need help. Do you feel you need psychiatric help? Officer Martinez's voice was gentle, kind. I need help getting away from him. That's what I need. The officers exchanged glances. They'd seen this before, clearly, knew the pattern. Okay. Here's what we're going to do, Officer Martinez said. We're going to increase patrols on this street for the next few days. We've flagged your address in our system as a domestic violence situation. If you see Mr. Clark anywhere near here, you call 911 immediately. Don't confront him. Don't try to talk to him. Just call us. Understood? Yes, thank you. They left their cards, gave us the incident number, reminded us to document everything. As they walked back to their patrol car, I saw them talking to each other, both shaking their heads. The rest of the afternoon was surreal. Rosa made soup that no one ate. The movers finished unloading boxes into the guest room. Olivia stayed until 6, making sure all the legal paperwork was in order, all the evidence properly filed. Vivian alternated between sleeping and crying. I sat beside her, holding her hand, feeling more helpless than I'd felt in years. At 7:15, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, already knowing who it would be. You've made a very serious mistake, Margot. Cameron's voice was ice-cold, controlled again. The explosion of anger from earlier had been tamped down into something more dangerous, more calculating. I'm recording this call, Cameron, and you're violating the restraining order by contacting me. I'm calling from my lawyer's office. This is attorney business. Perfectly legal. I just wanted to let you know what's going to happen next. I'm not interested. You should be, because I'm going to destroy your daughter's reputation. I'm going to make sure everyone knows she's mentally unstable, that she abandoned her marriage because of your manipulation. I have friends at her firm. I'll make sure she loses her job. I have friends in real estate. I'll make sure she never works in this town again. Are you threatening her? I'm telling you facts. She made a choice. Actions have consequences. She could have stayed with me, worked on our marriage like an adult. Instead, she ran home to Mommy and filed a bullshit restraining order based on lies. They're not lies. We have evidence, Cameron. Photos, documentation, witness statements from people who've seen what you've done to her. A pause, then, Rosa, that bitch. She's the one who put all this in your heads, isn't she? I should have fired her months ago. I knew she was trouble. Rosa saved my daughter's life. She had more courage than anyone else in this situation. She's going to regret it. They all are. You, Rosa, that lawyer, everyone who helped Vivian do this. You're all going to pay for destroying my marriage. Your marriage was destroyed the moment you laid hands on her in anger. The moment you started controlling who she could see and talk to. The moment you decided you owned her instead of loved her. I never touched her, he was yelling now, control finally snapping completely. I never hit her. She bruises easily. She's clumsy. She walks into things. But no, you had to convince her I'm some kind of monster. You couldn't stand that she chose me over you. That she had a life that didn't revolve around you. This call is over, Cameron. Put her on the phone. Let me talk to her. Let me explain. She'll understand. She always understands when we talk things through. Just let me... I hung up. My hands were shaking. Vivian was standing in the doorway, face white. She'd heard everything. He's falling apart, she whispered. I've never heard him lose control like that. He's always so calm, so controlled. Even when he's hurting me, he stays calm. This is different. Good. Let him fall apart. Let him show the world who he really is. But I was scared too, though I didn't want her to see it. Men like Cameron were most dangerous when they lost control. When the mask slipped and the rage underneath had nowhere to go. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept getting up, checking the windows, The doors, the security system I'd installed years ago and barely used. Rosa stayed over, sleeping in the other guest room. Neither of us trusted that Cameron would respect the restraining order, legal consequences or not. At 2:30 in the morning, my security system alarm went off. The motion sensor for the driveway. Someone was out there. I grabbed my phone, pulling up the camera feed. A dark figure was standing at the end of my driveway just beyond the property line, just far enough away that he technically wasn't violating the 100-yard restriction. But I knew it was him. I called 911. Someone's outside my house. My daughter has a restraining order against her husband. I think it's him. The dispatcher was calm, professional. Officers are on their way. Stay inside. Don't go out. Can you still see him? Yes. He's just standing there, watching the house. Keep me on the line. I woke Vivian and Rosa. We all huddled in the living room, lights off, watching through the window. Cameron stood there for 15 minutes, not moving, just staring at the house, at us. When the police car pulled up, he didn't run. He just turned and walked away, hands in his pockets like he'd been out for a casual stroll. The officers got out, talked to him briefly. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw Cameron gesture, saw him pull out his phone, probably showing them something. One officer walked him to his car, parked 3 blocks away. The other came to the door. He claims he was just driving by, that he wasn't on your property, that he has every right to be on a public street. Officer Chen again, looking tired and frustrated. Technically, he's right. He stayed outside the 100-yard boundary. We can't arrest him for that. But you warned him? We did. Told him very clearly that continuing to come near this property, even if he's technically within his legal rights, constitutes harassment. That if we have to come back here again tonight, we're taking him in. He said he understands. But Mrs. Beaumont, I'm going to be honest with you. Guys like this? They push boundaries, they test limits, they find loopholes, document everything, keep recording, and get cameras installed if you don't have them already. After he left, I sat on the couch with my phone, pulling up security camera companies. By dawn, I'd scheduled installation for first thing Monday morning. Cameras on every corner of the property, motion sensors on all approaches. I was turning my home into a fortress. Vivian was curled up in a chair, knees pulled to her chest. This is my fault. I brought this into your life. You were safe before. Now he's going to terrorize you because of me. Stop. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. And I'm not scared of him. I'm angry. There's a difference. But I was scared. For her. For both of us. Because I'd seen the look on Cameron's face in that grainy security camera footage. The stillness of him, standing there in the dark, watching. That wasn't the face of a man who was going to give up quietly. The next few days were a nightmare of legal proceedings, police reports, and constant vigilance. Cameron called from different numbers, always from his lawyer's office, always carefully worded to avoid direct violations of the restraining order. He sent emails to Vivian's work email, CCing her boss, claiming she was having a mental breakdown and needed time off for treatment. He contacted her friends on social media, spreading lies about her mental state, about my undue influence, about how concerned he was for her welfare. Classic abuser tactics, smear campaign, isolation, making the victim look crazy so no one would believe her when she finally spoke the truth. But we fought back. Olivia documented everything, filed additional complaints, got an extension on the restraining order, started building a case not just for divorce, but for a protective order that would last years. And slowly, painfully, Vivian started to find her voice again, started to remember who she'd been before Cameron, started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could survive this. The turning point came 5 days after she'd left him. Her boss called, asking to meet with her. We'd been terrified it was to fire her, to tell her Cameron's lies had worked. Instead, her boss, a woman in her 60s named Patricia, sat across from Vivian in a coffee shop and said, "I've been in your shoes 20 years ago. Different man, same story. So I know what you're going through, and I want you to know that your job is safe. You're talented, you're valuable, and you're not alone," Vivian cried. But this time they were tears of relief, of gratitude, of hope. We were going to win this. Cameron Clark had underestimated my daughter, and he definitely underestimated me. 6 months. That's how long it took for the divorce to be finalized. 6 months of legal battles, court hearings, depositions, and Cameron's increasingly desperate attempts to maintain control. The permanent restraining order was granted after the first hearing, when the judge reviewed Rosa's documentation, the photographs, the timeline of abuse, and Vivian's own testimony. Cameron's lawyer had tried to discredit everything, calling Rosa a disgruntled employee, calling me a manipulative mother, calling Vivian mentally unstable. But the evidence was overwhelming. The pattern was too clear. The judge wasn't buying it. "Mr. Clark," Judge Morrison had said, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and no patience for nonsense. "The court finds credible evidence of a pattern of coercive control, psychological abuse, and physical intimidation. The restraining order will remain in effect for 3 years. I strongly suggest you comply with it." Cameron's face had gone white with rage, but he'd kept his mouth shut. His lawyer had whispered something to him, probably reminding him that outbursts in court wouldn't help his case. The divorce itself was messier. Cameron fought everything. He wanted the house, claiming he'd paid for it. Olivia produced documentation showing Vivian's income had contributed to the down payment and mortgage. He wanted spousal support, claiming Vivian's career success was built on his emotional and financial support. The judge had actually laughed at that one. In the end, the settlement was fair. Vivian got to keep her retirement accounts, her car, and half the equity in the house, which Cameron would have to buy her out of or sell. He'd fought hardest about the house, that symbol of his success, his control. Losing it felt like losing face. Good. I hoped it hurt. During those 6 months, I watched my daughter slowly come back to life. It wasn't linear. There were bad days, terrible days, when she'd break down crying over something small, convinced she'd made a mistake, convinced she couldn't survive without him. Those were the days his psychological abuse was loudest in her head. But there were good days, too. Days when she laughed at something stupid on TV. Days when she spent hours working on architecture sketches at my kitchen table. That focused look on her face I remembered from when she was young. Days when she'd call her old friends, the ones Cameron had made her cut off, and rebuild those bridges. She started therapy 3 times a week with a specialist in domestic violence trauma. Dr. Sarah Lawrence, a kind woman with warm brown eyes who'd helped hundreds of survivors rebuild their sense of self. The work was hard, painful, but necessary. "He spent 3 years convincing me I was worthless," Vivian said one evening, sitting on my porch with tea. We'd made this a ritual, evening tea and conversation, rebuilding the relationship Cameron had tried so hard to destroy. 3 years telling me I couldn't survive without him, that no one else would want me, that I was lucky he put up with me. And part of me still believes it, Mom. Part of me still hears his voice in my head telling me I'm nothing. "That voice is lying," I said firmly. "You are talented, brilliant, strong, and loved. Cameron's voice doesn't get to live in your head anymore. Every time you hear it, you replace it with the truth." Dr. Lawrence says the same thing. She calls it rewriting the narrative, taking back the story of who I am. Then let's rewrite it together. Rosa became part of our household, part of our small family of survivors. She worked for me officially, helping with housekeeping and cooking, but really she was just there, present, supporting, understanding in a way only someone who'd survived similar trauma could understand. "I had a daughter once," she told me one afternoon while we were preparing dinner. Vivian was at a therapy appointment. Beautiful girl, smart, kind. She married a man like Cameron. I saw the signs, but I didn't know what to do, how to help. This was 20 years ago back in Mexico. Resources were different then. Knowledge was different. One night, he went too far. She ended up in the hospital. By the time I got there, it was too late. My throat tightened. Rosa, I'm so sorry. That's why I couldn't stay quiet with Vivian. I couldn't watch it happen again. I couldn't lose another daughter to a man like that. Tears were running down her face. When I warned you that night, I was saving her. But I was also saving myself, doing what I couldn't do before. We held each other in my kitchen and cried, for her daughter, for mine, for all the women who didn't get out in time. Cameron tried to contact Vivian several times in those 6 months, always through indirect means that technically didn't violate the restraining order. Emails to mutual acquaintances, asking them to check on her mental health. Social media posts about the pain of being falsely accused. A letter sent to Vivian's workplace, claiming concern for her well-being. Each attempt was documented, reported to Olivia, added to the growing file of his harassment. The final divorce hearing was anticlimactic. Cameron didn't even show up, sending his lawyer to handle everything. The judge approved the settlement, signed the papers, and just like that, Vivian was free. We didn't celebrate. It didn't feel like something to celebrate. It felt like the end of a war, not a victory. Relief, yes, but also exhaustion. Grief for the years lost. Anger at what had been taken from her. It's over, she said quietly as we left the courthouse. It's really over. The legal part is over, I corrected gently. The healing part is going to take longer, but we'll get through it. Together. Now, 10 months after that terrifying Saturday night when Rosa grabbed my arm and changed everything, Vivian is building a new life. She moved into her own apartment last month, a beautiful one-bedroom with huge windows overlooking downtown Greenwich. She'd been scared at first, worried about living alone after everything. But Dr. Lawrence had encouraged it as part of reclaiming her independence. She's thriving at work. Patricia, her boss, had promoted her to senior architect, putting her in charge of a major commercial project. The same confidence Cameron had spent years destroying was coming back, slowly but surely. She's dating again, cautiously, carefully. A nice guy named David who works in urban planning, who treats her with respect and patience, who understands when she needs space, who's never once raised his voice in anger. It's early days, and she's taking it slow. But the fact that she's willing to try, willing to trust again, feels like a miracle. We have dinner together twice a week now, sometimes at my house, sometimes at hers. We talk about everything: work, friends, therapy, David, the future. We don't talk about Cameron much anymore. He's not worth the energy. Though Vivian did tell me he'd moved to Boston, apparently embarrassed enough by the divorce and restraining order that staying in Greenwich felt impossible. Good. Let him start over somewhere else. Hopefully his reputation would follow him. Last week, Vivian and I were having coffee on her apartment balcony when she said something that made my heart full. Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me, for trusting your instincts even when I pushed you away, for being there when I was ready to ask for help. I don't think I ever said that properly. Thank you. You never have to thank me for loving you. That's what mothers do. Not all mothers. Some would have believed him. Some would have told me to work harder on my marriage, to be a better wife. You didn't. You just believed me and fought for me. That saved my life, Mom. Literally. We sat there together in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the sky pink and gold. Two survivors, two fighters, a mother and daughter who'd been through hell and come out the other side stronger. I thought about that night, standing in Rosa's envelope of evidence, feeling like I'd failed as a mother for not seeing the signs sooner. I know better now. Abuse hides in shadows. It disguises itself as love. It uses our best instincts, our desire to respect boundaries, to trust our loved ones' choices, to not interfere, against us. But I also learned that it's never too late to act. That one moment of courage, Rosa's warning, my decision to listen, Vivienne's choice to leave, can change everything. That survivors are stronger than anyone gives them credit for. And that love, real love, doesn't control or diminish or destroy. It lifts up. It supports. It fights. Cameron Clark took 3 years of my daughter's life. But he didn't break her. And he definitely didn't win. We did. Love did. And that's the story I'll tell anyone who'll listen. Because somewhere out there, there's another Rosa, seeing the signs and wondering if she should speak up. Another mother, feeling that sick instinct that something's wrong but not knowing what to do. Another Vivienne, trapped and scared and convinced there's no way out. I want them to know. There is a way out. It's hard. It's terrifying, but it's possible. And on the other side, there's freedom. There's healing. There's life. My daughter got her life back, and I got my daughter back. That's everything.